Rabbi Gottlieb, when he went over this, he says that Shulchan Aruch seems to say that it's on the side of, you have like a loaf of bread. Here's a loaf of bread. It has a top, a bottom, and the side walls, right? So they say that about the middle of the side wall, it doesn't sound right to me because it would seem to me that the most big part will be at the end, because the fire and the heat gets to it all, in more, in five directions, right? The end, the sides, top and bottom. Whereas on the middle, anyway, I'm not sure what it is. You can look it up in the Shulchan Aruch, but there is a place on the on the loaf of the bread that is the first one to bake. That's the one that we should cut on, right? And there is a. So this story doesn't.
Do they say Menashe?
What?
Do they say to Mel?
I don't know.
Menashe and Mel?
You mean in the Shulchan Aruch? I don't know. Maybe. Is there a quote here in the Gemara where he says that the footnote, like an aleph or a beit? I don't see it. It doesn't exist there.
Part of the law.
Yeah, choicest. Well, the one that's first baked. Okay. Well, what's the choicest place for the loaf? What would you say is the choicest place for the loaf? I mean, it's all made of the same water and dough and flour, same quality everywhere. So it's got to be something to do with the baking. What's the best baked part? So you might say maybe the end is too dry.
To me, is the bottom.
Yeah, you like the crust, right? So, I like the ends because it's. But what do most people feel is if you're going to serve a fancy dinner, right? So you will slice the bread, and you'll give the best slices. What are the best slices? Probably the middle slices. It has a crust on the outside, and the inside is soft. At the end, I happen to like the end, but you don't serve it to fancy guests. Put an end piece of the bread on the plate, right? You wouldn't. I guess you wouldn't do that.
You left it for yourself.
I will ask. I want to save it for me, so I don't give it to them, right? Yeah. No, but it usually is. So he says that's what. And then he says to him, and you didn't know that rule, and you are sarcastic about me. You think that you can be my friend? Yeah? He said to Rabbi Avahu, right? He said that to him. So Rabbi Avahu was embarrassed. He says, "You're right. You're a much greater man than I thought." Right? He says to Menashe, the one who did all this idol worshiping, right? Terrible king. And he made the Jewish people follow him to idol worshiping. So then he says to him, "No, I want to ask you, Menashe, I'm sorry I was disrespectful to you, but how is it possible if you are such a big talmid chacham that you would go after idol worship?" This is where we ended last year, right? Last week. So Menashe says to him, "You don't understand what things were like then. Mm-hmm. If you would live at the same time as me, you would have run after me with your, you would have hitched up your pants or your cloak and you would have run after me as fast as possible to do Avodah Zarah too." He says to Rabbi Abahu.
This is Ravashi.
Ravashi? Yeah. Ravashi. So he says that to Ravashi. So Ravashi's quiet. And he wakes up in the morning after this dream. First of all, of course, what do you make of a dream? I don't know. Is a dream a real thing, or a dream is ruminations of one's own mind? So there are different opinions about that.
He didn't know
Either case.
He didn't know the answer.
In either case, yeah, that's true. But in either case, he could have a dream in which ruminations are. Maybe he knew it once upon a time and forgot it. Who knows, whatever. But he wakes up in the morning and he feels bad that he told his students, tomorrow we're going to talk about our friends, as though
what's the matter with being a friend?
A wave of the hand, right?
No.
So he comes back to his friends the next morning, to his students the next morning, and he says, today we're going to talk about our rabbis, meaning our teachers. Yerabam, Menashe, and Ahab, our teachers. Right? Because you remember the Gemara before had talked about these people were not simple people, that they made amazing knowledge, they knew so many things. It's a very big mystery how they could be so deviant, even though they were so knowledgeable. Now listen, in our day, I'm not so sure that that is such a shocking thing. and that's the way we ended yesterday. Do you believe that if a person demonstrates great knowledge and great learning, that he is guaranteed to be a wonderful person and and a righteous person and doesn't sin great sins? We hear that. It's so amazing. I mean, we are always surprised when we see it, but it's not so unusual, sadly to say. We don't see corruption among rabbis who are great talmidei chachamim. We don't see abuse of wives or children among talmidei chachamim who are, I mean, we talked about this once before in the previous daf about God coming to Yeravam and say, listen, buddy, you come with me and do tshuva and we'll walk in Gan Eden together. And he says, I don't want, right, because I'm not going to be the boss. So you imagine to yourself, it's impossible. How could a person hear God talk to him? We talked about this, right? So our nature, our human nature is so powerful that we can resist God and we can resist our knowledge and we can resist our moral compass and go astray and go wrong. I mean, God produced us that way, that we should be able to do the worst possible things in order that we should be able to do the best possible thing.
So that means that was good that Hashem
Created people that way.
That Hashem told us in Egypt, bring the gold, because he was thinking, you're going to make
I'm going to give you a chance. Yeah, Moshe Rabbeinu says to God, how could you punish them? You gave them so much gold, of course they're going to go bad, right?
Exactly.
But God's secret is, I'm going to put the people in a situation where they are free to choose to do anything. Because that's what I want. That's how I created
But
people.
that is like
So if I keep them poor,
like leave a gun in front of a child.
well, a child is not the same as an adult. Yes, correct. God does
Yeah,
that.
crazy
God does
adult.
that. He gives us the knowledge how to make nuclear weapons in order that we should know how to be ethical in the use of weapons. He gave you a brilliant mind that you should be able to produce poison gas, just like the mind that could produce penicillin and polio vaccines. I mean, look, that's the way it is. You want to give that up and say to God, God, please take away all of this knowledge that we know how to do such destructive things. Make us simple so that we would be believing you and we would be good all the time. Make us like that, God, because there's too much agony, there's too much suffering in the world. The price that we have to pay for this genius that you gave us is too much. I don't want it anymore. Huh? Sometimes it feels that way. Sometimes it feels that way. I told you the story about the 10 martyrs. I think we talked about that here.
No.
Sure. No?
No.
Pinky?
I don't think so.
No? Let me tell you a story. We say it on Yom Kippur every afternoon, every Shabbat, Friday, every Yom Kippur afternoon. Did we talk about it?
Well, no more than what it says in the Machzor. Are you talking about what it says in the Machzor?
Yes, in the Machzor. Yeah, but the understanding of it. What's the understanding of it? 10, we say on Yom Kippur afternoon, if you remember, the story of the 10 martyrs, great rabbis, great teachers who taught Torah even though the Romans said you must not do it. If anybody who's caught teaching Torah to other people, he's going to be killed. So Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon and others taught Torah anyway. They defiant against the Roman people, the Roman government. And they were told even, you're going to be killed if you get caught. They say, no, without Torah, we're all going to die, so we're going to have to do this anyway, right? So they do it. And then we read this poem of the amazing consequences. One by one, they were caught. And it just so happens that this poem is a little bit of takes liberties with the history, because these 10 people didn't live at the same exact time. They lived at different times. But it makes it sound like all 10 of them together were caught in order to make the story very tragic. And they were killed one by one in the greatest torture, terrible things. One of them was burnt alive with wet sponges on his body, wrapped in a Sefer Torah, and they put it on fire. And the other one was scraped with metal combs so that the skin came off his body, and so on. And the other one was his head cut off. Right, terrible things. So in the middle of all this, in the poem, don't ask me if it really happened this way, but in the poem, there's a story that the angels see what's going on here with this terrible crime, terrible public torture, sadism against Talmidei Chachamim like this. So the angels scream to God, and they say to God, this is Torah and this is its proper reward? Meaning, God, what are you doing? Right? It's an accusation. I mean, aren't you going to stop this? These people deserve this kind of reward. The reward that they should get is reward, a great reward. What is this going on? What's wrong? So the suggestion is, God, aren't you going to stop this from happening? Right? So God's answer to them is very troubling. If you just read the text of this story, God's answer is, Pinky,
don't bug me, don't bug me.
Silence, he says. Silence, shut up. Don't say another word. And if you
I will turn the world to...
If you don't be quiet, if I hear one more word from, one more complaint from you, I will turn the world back to tohu vabohu, to the waste, and emptiness and shapelessness and whatever, before the creation of the world. I will destroy the universe, till nothing, bring back to nothing. So, now, and then the story continues that they killed this one, and they killed this one, and they killed this one, and we remember this as a way of praying for our atonement, and so on and so on. It's a very strange story. But anyway, well, how do you make a sense of the discussion between the angels and God? You have to think about this. Like, if I'm a child, and I go to my father, and I say, I want, right? My father says, no, 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 no. And then I become a real nudnik. I nudge him to death. I drive him crazy, right? So he gives me a slap. And he says, quiet already. If you don't quiet, I'm going to throw this all away. I'm going to destroy this whole house, You would say to a father like that, what's the matter with you? Crazy? You can't hold your temper? I mean, so you're nudged, or you're upset, you lose your temper, and you say, has an argument with his wife, and if he says, if I hear one more word, I'm going to burn our house down. What kind of discussion? He's crazy. That means he's becoming insane. I understand you're upset, but you're losing control. So God is losing control. God is talking to the angels like this: be quiet, because if you're not quiet, I'm going to destroy this. I'm going to throw the whole universe away. Well, what kind of discussion? It doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. To me, it doesn't make any sense. Except that there is a very reasonable explanation for this, Pinky.
Reasonable explanation, yeah. After what Rabbi Yehuda says.
So
it says that I never had an opportunity to fulfill the mitzvah of loving Hashem.
Yeah, so Rabbi Akiva is not upset. Rabbi Akiva says, I am fortunate that I have found this opportunity.
Yeah.
So that's God's answer? What do you mean? God is saying, shut up, or why didn't he say so? I wanted to provide an opportunity for Rabbi Akiva to do the mitzvah of Ahavta l'reacha. Says, shut up or else I'll destroy the universe. What does that mean? I'm asking the reply. What does God's reply mean? From God's point of view, what is he saying to the angels? And what's the angel saying to him? To my mind, the explanation is, the angels are saying to God, I see evil, destroying good, right? That's not right. It's not just, it's not correct. God, aren't you going to do something about this? God says to the angels, be quiet, I'm telling you, I am upset about this also, just like you. But if I hear any more complaints, what do you want me to do? You want me to step in and stop the evil people from doing bad things to good people, right? That's what you want me to do, he says to the angels, right? Well, if I'm going to do that, then I might as well destroy the whole universe, because the whole principle of my preparing and creating the universe was with the freedom for people to do evil and good people to do good and for the history to go that way, right? You don't like it, angels? You don't like this? I mean, you're seeing the consequences of my commitment to free will, right? That's what you're seeing. You're seeing my rule about freedom of choice for people. You're seeing it play out. A price to pay, right? Correct? A price to pay. You don't want to pay that price anymore? So the whole, let's destroy the whole universe. That's the whole, forget it. We go back to square one. That's what he's saying. He's not losing his temper or get angry. I can't help it. I'm going to destroy. I'm going to throw like a child. I'm going to throw my toy against the wall. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, you think that I don't care? Of course I care. You think I'm not crying? Of course I'm crying. But you want me to, what do you want me to do? You want me to stop the rules? Then I might as well throw it all away. Because that's not the, if I break the rules once, I can't break the rules. I can't make that rule anymore.
But at a certain time he broke the rules.
So we talked about this once before, right? We talked about, at least my philosophy, we talked about this once before, that God obviously breaks the rules sometimes, rarely, sometimes. When does he break the rule? It seems to me, when the whole, like, for example, Mitzrayim, right? God break the rules. The Egyptians want to continue to enslave the Jewish people, and he says, the time has come, I have to stop this. 210 years, he didn't stop this. Right. Babies get thrown into the water, he didn't stop it. Right. Babies get thrown into the cement of the buildings, he didn't stop it. What's 210 years going, I mean, what, of slavery, of suffering? How come not yesterday? How come now? So he tells Moshe, I have seen their pain. I have seen their suffering, and I have seen their na'akatam, I think, right? That in our Haggadah, when we have Pesach night, our Haggadah says that one of the things that says God saw is that they began to be so desperate, the Jewish people who were so despair, they were so desperate that they no longer will have any children, right? Zu is... No, not Amram. Amram beforehand. He went back to his wife, but for a while. But what is the text? Et na'akatam ze prishut derech eretz, something like that. No, one of the things that they will. So he must have seen at some point. It's mysterious how God see when this happens, but God saw. If not now, then the Jewish people will cease to exist. They can be eaten, they can be hit, they can be hit. There comes a time when the whole nation is gone. And I suggest to you that one of the rules that God has is that people have to be free. Rule number 2 is that there has to be a Jewish people. Because just like freedom of will is there, the Jewish people is a necessity in the universe in order to spread the words, to sustain the possibility that good will eventually win. Without that, then we don't have the ball game doesn't work, right? So 2. Number 3 is the atmosphere of this planet has to continue to survive, because otherwise there's no humanity, and humanity is the whole reason for this universe to be existing. If there was no planet Earth, then there wouldn't be any sense of the universe, just to make a nice painting. I mean, God doesn't have to make a nice sculpture, right, to show us how beautiful an artist he is.
What about Miriam?
So that's it. Those are the 2 things. And Miriam said this, basically Miriam said this to Amram. Amram, you're gonna destroy the people? Well, so long as there's a person who can correct the situation, then God doesn't have to step in. That's what God wants, of course, yeah? I mean, if Egypt would want to enslave the Jewish people, and the United States of America would come in and beat up Egypt and say, these people have to be free, then God doesn't have to step in, right? I mean, it's very nice. If the Nazis want to kill the entire Jewish people and the Americans and the Allies come and conquer them and the Russians come in from the other side, then God doesn't have to step in. You might say that means God stepping in. I don't think so, but fine. The free-willed people are making sacrifices to fight evil. If the 10 martyrs would be killed and tortured and somebody would come in and rebel against the Romans and say, that's not right, you have to stop, that's what God was hoping that would happen. Right? Eventually the Roman people did fall apart. But at this point, when the 10 martyrs were dying, it was not a situation where the entire Jewish people would be destroyed. So God says to the angels, it's one of my rules. It's not that I don't care. It's one of my rules. The whole world depends on these rules to go. So that one day there will be a great possibility of achievement on the human beings. I mean, I could have made robots. I could have made Eliezri to be such a person that is always doing good. He has no choice. He does good all the time. Such a wonderful person. I could have made Eliezri that way, but I decided I can't. That doesn't make any sense. It's like I'm creating a beautiful star and I'm creating a beautiful Yehuda Eliezri. All right. Michelangelo, you know what I mean? He makes a beautiful statue of David. So God would make a statue that knows how to move. So God has to show how beautiful a sculptor he is. It's not a big deal. God wanted to create humanity that has a freedom of choice to be able to achieve with his neshama the greatest possibility, coming almost to be God, almost to be like an angel. That's a challenge. I don't know why God needs that, but that's what he wanted, right? So he has to be free to do that. That's the price to pay. He could also be Hitler if he wants to be. And he could also be Sister Teresa if he wants to be. He could be the Rambam if he wants to be. He could be
Mani de Yah.
And he could be Eliyahu BaYona if he wants to be. I mean, it's great, right? They're all possibilities.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what I think is, so why does that come in here? To explain how it's possible that Menashe, who is such a great mind, you know, who knows all these things that the Gemara is suggesting, how he could end up doing such terrible things, to me is not such a big, incredible surprise. Rav Ashi's perplexed by that. And he tells him that if you were there, you would do the same thing. And for that, Pinky suggested that he really believes the story that there was such a desire for Avodah Zarah in the days of Menashe that even the best people would not resist it. But we see that that wasn't true, by the way, right? I mean, Ahab, for example. Ahab promulgated Avodah Zarah in his kingdom, and one of his own servants, what's his name? Benayahu? What was his name? I forget. Obadiah resisted him, and he continued to believe in God, and he saved a lot of righteous people in a cave, right? Against, even at the price to his own life. So what made Obadiah? Obadiah is better than Rav Ashi? I think maybe Menashe is being a little hyperbolic by saying, oh, even you would have done it. I don't know.
Okay, Yehuda, but at that time, there were righteous people in Israel. Didn't follow.
And they were hiding in the cave. I mean, do you think that every single person in the entire Jewish people committed idol worship? Is that what we have to believe? I mean, there must be some that didn't. Every time there was idol worshiping, there were some that didn't. When Gideon wanted to choose an army, he made a trick, you know, had them drink from the water, and those people who didn't go down on their knees were the ones that he chose for the army. That means there were some people who did idol worship and some who didn't do idol worship. Maybe the majority were idol worshippers even, but there were some who weren't.
7,000.
7,000 people, I will leave, the Gemara says. I mean, so, I don't know, it could be a small number. But even if it takes one person who keeps the spark alive, while there's a lot of evil going on, eventually we believe, good will come out. But it could take a long time, it could take a lot of suffering.
To Hashem is very important, righteous people, and people that is making mitzvot. So at that time, there was not enough merit to these righteous people to keep the temple alive.
Who says the temple is going to be alive just because there's righteous people? That's a completely different topic, what you're saying. What's going to be the consequences? How does God judge how he weighs? Mm-hmm. That's a big mystery. It's not part of this topic, right? Mm-hmm. You're asking me a separate question.
Thinking about it.
You're asking me a separate question. You don't think that at the time of the Nazis there was... who says that God is the one who decides anyway that terrible things will happen? Mm-hmm. Listen, if you listen to me, you become an apostate. So it's better if you don't. Better if you don't listen.
That's what I am here.
Better if you don't talk to me about these things. Because if people are free, that means people are free, right? I mean, to me, it's an enigma how people say, and God brought the Nazis around, or God brought the Romans to destroy the Jewish to the temple. What does that mean?
We didn't prevent it.
No,
prevent it, so-
God sent messengers to these people.
To warn them.
Yeah, exactly.
You must do tshuva, you must do... That I understand. That I believe. So that's also free will. And they freely did not want to listen to them. So eventually people destroy themselves. They become corrupt. They don't know how to make a good society. The enemies are always at the door trying to destroy one country another. So if you deteriorate, so you're going to fall apart. I mean, that's the way it is. To me, it's not too unreasonable, not so fantastic. If America loses its moral compass, and if America loses the ability to plan and to be responsible, then America could be destroyed. God forbid.
We should find its way to doing, I think.
What?
I think might be on its way to doing.
Right now?
To doing.
Right now?
Well, I don't know. Hope not. Still the greatest country in the world.
What do you say about the new rules that is going on?
Shouldn't say that. You shouldn't say that because he's banking everything in his life to be able to be here. You're going to tell him now it's not worth it?
Well, maybe compared to other countries,
I know.
Listen to Pinky. You're not worried about what he
it's on
said?
its way to going. It's going to be on the slippery. It's on a slope. It's on a downward slope.
Okay, who knows? Who knows? So where is he going here? L'Rabbanan, Niftach B'Rabuta. Okay. Achav. We are in the words Achav. Ach Lashamayim.
Woe.
Woe to heaven.
Right? Ach Lashamayim. Av la... What?
Ach to heaven. Woe to heaven.
Oh, that's how he translates it?
And father to idolatry.
Whoa. Really?
Oh.
Wait a moment. Wait a moment. You sure?
Yeah.
Who said that?
Who said it?
Why don't we say Ach Lashamayim means he's a brother to heaven and a father to Avodah Zarah? That's the enigma, no? I mean, isn't that, to me, why don't we translate it that way, straightforward?
Let's see. This follows
Ra Lashamayim.
This follows Rashi.
Kedamrinan v'achashverosh ach v'rosh.
He translates the
I
word
know.
ach as an onomatopoeia.
Tiv v'ach latzara yulad. Vai latzara. Alma ach lashon ra vai. Av lavukashaya ohava biyoter diktiv grachim av alma av merachem v'hani krayi b'kbi nakat lahu. Wow. I thought, just like Menashe, that they were saying, he is such a great talmid chacham, and he learns and he knows everything, and he's so close to Torah, and then he's an Oved Avodah Zarah, which is a mystery, how it could be, right? That's what we thought. So I thought when they say Achav, his name is Ach Av, right? There are two pieces of the word, right, Eliyahu? You understand? It's a play on words. Ach Av. You look only about the translation, you know what they're talking about. It's not brother, father. But that's what in Hebrew it means, brother, father. Achav. So he's a brother of what? And a father of what? So I thought, plain and simple, no? He's a brother to heaven, means he's very close to God. And he's also a father to Avodah Zarah, which is an enigma. But that's not what the Gemara is saying. Ach Lashamayim, this part that he is brother to heaven. Diktiv Ach Latzara Yulad. Av lavodos kochavim diktiv kerachem aval banim. How do you translate the guys? What is the English? I understand what Rashi is saying. What are you saying? What do you got there? Are you reading? Eliyahu.
Yes, I was reading as a father has compassion for his children, so Hashem has compassion for those who fear him.
Yeah.
Scripture says concerning Ahab, his most trivial deed was to follow the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat.
That's the least of his bad deeds, right? That he did. Amar Yochanan kalut she'asa Achav kechamurot she'asa Yeravam. Right? He was such a terrible man, Achav, that the least crimes that he did were like he took the worst crimes of Yeravam, and those were the least things that he did.
And he was better than Izebel, his wife.
Well, I suppose. Umipnei ma talah hakatuv beYeravam. Why do we ascribe the deeds of Ahab to Yeravam, mipnei shehu haya tchilat lekalkala. Right? In other words, you understand. I mean, he started the ball rolling. Yeravam was the first one who made the slope that you were talking about, the slippery slope of decline. Right? Once he broke the ice and he started making avodah zarah so official, then the others followed him, and they even became worse. That's true. Gam mizbechotam kigalim al talmid sadai.
But why isn't Rechavam given more of a bad press? Because he's the guy who was responsible for the split between Yehuda and Israel.
But Rechavam is in Yehuda. Did he do avodah zarah too, Rechavam? Yeravam is mentioned here. I don't know about Rechavam. Did we discuss Rechavam being so terrible anywhere?
No, I'm just asking. I mean, since he's responsible, because he was told to. People came to him after Shlomo
died
and said, "Relax, go easy on the taxes." And he decided he's going to ask the advisors. The old advisor said, "Listen to the people," but the young advisor said, "No, make it harder on them." He followed the younger guys. Yeah. And that was the
split.
Split.
A little bit like Obama wanting to raise taxes and the Republicans saying don't. Anyway, right. So, in other words, it's true, he made very unwise decisions which caused a split or a rebellion in the people. So you want to blame him as bad as Yeravam?
Yeah, but I mean, just a thought. Just a thought.
Politically, he was not very smart, right? They didn't do the right thing.
Right. Anyway.
What is this? Gam misvotam ke galim al talmid sadai. How do you translate that? Gam hachi reishei dikra. Oh, that's the beginning of the pasuk. Biglal shivarim shezavchu gam misvotam ke galim al talmid sadai. I see. So, yeah, in other words, the first part of the pasuk, it sounds like, because of the altar of
are like heaps on the furrows of the field. What is that?
Of the field.
It's saying how many there were.
The cows, yeah.
No.
What then?
How many avodah zaros? Idols.
Like there are many furrows in the field, that's how many idols they made, you mean? That's what you're saying?
I believe so. Their altars, no, it's what it says. Their altars, too, are like heaps on the furrow.
Oh, I see. That's how many they make. And Rabbi Yochanan has a different view. Rabbi Yochanan said, Ein lecha kol telem v'telem be'eretz Yisrael shelo yemid alav achav avodat kochavim. That's how v'yishtachaveh lo. There wasn't even one furrow in any field that he didn't put an idol and bow down to it. That means it was all over the place, right? Everywhere. He took opportunities to make idols. How do you know that Ahab does not go to heaven, to Olam Haba? Diktiv v'ichrati le'achav mashtin bakir v'atzur v'azu b'Yisrael. I'm going to cut off from Ahab's future any one who pisses on the wall, and atzur, one who is stopped, and azuv, who is abandoned in Israel. What does that mean? Atzur be'olam hazeh, ve'azuv lo'olam haba. Someone who will be restrained or imprisoned or stopped in this world, and azuv, abandoned in the world to come. That's how we know in that pasuk, that prophecy about the punishment that Ahab will give, which Eliyahu brought, right, to Izabel and Eliyahu and Ahab, is that he will not have olam haba. Amar Rabbi Yochanan mipnei ma zacha imri lemalchut.
Omri.
Who is Omri? Who is Omri? Why are we now discussing him all of a sudden?
Omri. Ahab's father, Omri. Omri was bad in the eyes of Hashem.
He was bad, right? Omri.
He was worse than all those preceding.
He was Ahab's father, apparently.
Ahab's who?
Father.
Ahab's father.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was also terrible. So why?
He founded one of the longer-lasting dynasties in the history of the kingdom of Israel.
Oh, I see. So why was his kingdom so long-lasting? Mipnei shehosif krach echad be'eretz Yisrael. He increased one
fortified
district
city.
or something. One fortified city, he's saying?
Yes.
In the land of Israel. So in other words, I guess that's one some of the settlers in the West Bank say, right? That's why we have to do that. He increased something in Eretz Israel. Shnei Amar.
These guys aren't religious Zionists.
No. Shnei Amar vayiken et hahar Shomron. Me'et shemer bakikarim kesef. Vayiven et ahar. Vayikra et shem ha'ir asher bana al shem shemer adonai hahar Shomron. Right? What is it? How do you translate that sentence? Go for it.
It is stated, Omri purchased a mountain of Samaria, Shomron, from Shemer for 2 talents of silver. He built a city on the mountain, and he called the name of the city that he built Shomron, after Shemer, the Lord of the mountain.
So what do you? That's Avodah Zarah, no?
Sounds like it.
He bought it from a guy by the name of Shemer, and Shemer was an idol worshiper, I suppose, right? Mm-hmm. And then he built a fortified city on top of this mountain, and he called the mountain Shomron, which we use today, by the way, because of the name of the Lord of the mountain. What does that mean?
I'm not sure. Maybe it's a person. Maybe it's like.
Shemer is a person, no? Shomron is a play on words on Shemer, no?
Right.
Okay.
So maybe it's not that bad. Ben Yehuda explains that the fact that Omri did not name the city after himself indicates that he did not build the city for his own aggrandizement, but for the sake of Eretz Israel and the nation. It was this unselfish deed that led God to make him king.
But what's the meaning of the word? Adonai Hahar Shomron.
That the
owner, and the previous owner of it, in other words, just like that. I mean, it has nothing to do with a God, with an Eliel, right? Is that what you're saying?
I think so.
Amar Rabbi Yochanan, mipnei ma zacha Achav lamalchut, and why Chabeit Shana? Achav himself ruled for 22 years. That's a long time, even though he was doing such terrible things, right? Mipnei shekibed et haTorah shenitna b'chaf beit otiot. 22 letters in the alphabet that the Torah is written on. He gave kavod and honor to the Torah, even though he was such a terrible Avodah Zarah. We're very, again, complex, right? Very complex people. And therefore he was given 22 years of kingdom. Shnei Amar, how do we know? Vayishlach malachim el Achav melech Yisrael ha'ira, vayomer lo, ko Amar ben Hadad, kaspecha v'zahavcha lihu, v'nashecha u'banecha atovim lihem, ki im ka'et machar eshlachat avadai elecha, v'chipsu et beitchecha, ואת בתי עבדיך, והיה כל מחמד עיניך ישימו בידם ולקחו. ויאמר למלכי בן הדד, אמרו לאדוני המלך, כל אשר שלחת אל עבדיך בראשונה אעשה, והדבר הזה לא אוכל לעשות. Right? In other words, he told him he's going to come to his house, Hadad. Hadad was about to conquer the land of Israel. So Achav says, okay, you could have all kinds of booty, you can have all kinds of ransom as long as you spare our land, right? So Hadad, Achav was very afraid of him, right? He didn't think that he could beat him. So Achav says, okay, I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to take your wives and your children and your gold and your silver, and they're going to look through your house and they're going to take even the most precious things in your house. So Achav said to him, I want you to know that this one thing I cannot do, that is the precious thing, Mahmad Einecha. What is, what?
It's a Sefer Torah.
One thing I cannot do, and that is the precious thing in my mind, in my eyes. What is that? Sefer Torah.
Sefer Torah.
That's what I will refuse you. So the Gemara says, how do you know he's refusing him a Sefer Torah? Maybe he's refusing him Avodas Kachavim. Lo salkadai tachtiktiv. It cannot be, because it says, Vayomru elav kol hazkenim v'chol ha'am. Right? And all of the people said to Achav, and to the Zkenim said to Achav, don't give him that precious thing. So they can't. Dilma sabe de bahata havu. What does that mean? Maybe Zkenim shefelim, or maybe they were also like him, who
fight for an idol,
who prayed to an idol, right? And how do you know that that's what they advised them? Milokti vayishar davar b'nei Avshalom. V'hazkenim u'ba'alei kol ziknei Yisrael And isn't it true? Remember Absalom, who rebelled against David, Ziknei Yisrael there went along with him also. So how do you know Ziknei Yisrael here are good ones? V'am Rabbi Yosef, Sabei de Bahata Hasam Loksiv, V'chol Ha'am Hachaksiv. Right? In the time of Avshalom, the people who agreed with him were the Skenim. But it doesn't say Kol Ha'am. It doesn't say the entire people went along with him. Here it says Kol the people, all of the people. And you cannot imagine a time, the Gemara is an amazing thing, we will end up with this beautiful thing, that there is no such thing as the entire Jewish people being bad.
That's what I was saying before.
Impossible.
It's impossible that they were no righteous person.
It's impossible that there would not be righteous people among them, and therefore, when the entire people and the Zakenim told Achav, don't give him that precious thing, it cannot be about Avodah Zarah they're talking. It means about the Sefer Torah they're talking. Because it wouldn't be unanimous.
That is a contradiction, because he didn't follow the Torah. So what is this?
Yeah, but he honored the Torah, and he says, I could be an idol worshiper. You're asking about the same question about Amnon, about Menashe. How complex is it that Achav is this kind of a character who honors the Sefer Torah? He will not give it to Hadad, even though Hadad wants to kill him.
Not only does he not,
but he worships Avodah Zarah.
Not only does he honor the Sefer Torah, he knows it. He knows it better than almost anybody else.
You're asking how is it possible? The same question. How is it possible? It's very mysterious, right?
Yeah.
Right? And is it true that there is no such time when the Jewish people don't have several righteous people? Right? God himself tells Eliyahu, I have left at least 7,000 people who did not bow down to the Baal and who did not kiss it. Right? So that means if the entire people told Achav, objected to his giving up something very precious, it must have been the Torah, not Avodah Zarah. Amar Rav Nachman. So that's a pretty amazing thing to say, right? As bad as the Jewish people are, never say that they're all bad. No such thing. Can you say that about all of humanity? I suppose too. No? Why not? You don't believe that?
No, because it's bad and good all the time.
No, I mean all of humanity. You will say the same thing, that you cannot say all of humanity is bad.
No.
There's always someone who's good.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So it's not anything special about the Jewish people you're saying here. I might believe you. Amar Rav Nachman, Achav shakul haya, Achav was, what do you mean shakul? That he was sort of half and half?
Yeah. Liberal.
He was half and half. Shneimar vayomer Hashem mi yifateh et Achav vayal vayipol baramot Gilad. I hope somebody can entice Achav to go up and fall in the battle of Ramot Gilad. Vayomer zeh Bacho v'zeh omer bacho. What does he mean? What do you mean by that?
It means he gave away. He was liberal with his money, and because he benefited Torah scholars from his wealth, half his sins were forgiven.
And that's what you mean. That's what the proof from that pasuk is. Hashem says, "Who can possibly entice this man so that he will die?" Meaning that he cannot do it himself. God is sort of helpless to punish him because he's got good deeds as well as bad deeds, and he needs something to tip the balance. I mean,
well, except
what is God saying? I wish that somebody will go and entice him. I mean,
he's holding Olam Haba is pretty serious.
Yeah, that we're not discussing at this point, right? In his lifetime. Cool. I don't know. Maskiv Rav Yosef, Man diktiv bei, rak lo haya ke'achav asher yitmaker la'asot hara b'nei Hashem asher hisita oto izevel ishto. Right? Whoever it is he's talking about was not as bad as Achav, who did bad in the eyes of God that his wife Izebel enticed him to do. Is that supposed to be an excuse? Right? V'tanina kol yom hayta shokelet shiklei zahav la'avodos kachavim. Every day, Izebel, his wife, used to contribute, who knows how many silver coins to Avodah Zarah.
Gold.
Ve'at amrit shakul haya. And you're saying that he was half and half, if it's so bad that was going on? Ela Achav vatran b'mamono haya. He was very generous with his money. ומתוך שההנה תלמידי חכמים מנכסיו כיפרו לו מחצה. And since he gave half of his money, he gave a lot of money to Talmidei Chachamim, even though his wife was also giving a lot of money to Avodah Zarah. Half of his averos, half of his sins were forgiven. Vayetze haruach vayamod lifnei Hashem vayomer ani afatenu. So a wind came and said before God, when he said, who will entice Achav to go up and get killed in this battle? I will go. Vayomer Hashem elav b'ma. So he said to the wind, how are you going to entice him? Vayomer, the wind said, Eitzei v'hayiti ruach sheker v'fi kol nevi'av. I'm going to be a wind, a spirit, he said, right? I'm going to be a spirit of lying, of falsehood in the mouth of all of his advisors, of his prophets, right? And therefore they will advise him to go out to fight in this battle, which will be a fatal mistake for him, right? That he will die. Vayomer tifateh v'gam tuchal. So God says, go ahead, you'll be able to succeed and you'll do that, your spirit. My ruach, what do you mean by ruach? The Gemara wants to say, who's this ruach? Amar Rav Yochanan, rucho shel Navot HaYisraeli. Navot HaYisraeli was one of his advisors. My tzei, what did God mean go out? Amar Ravina, tzei mimichitzati. You spirit, leave from before me, God said. Right? Because this is a spirit of saying falsehood. He says, okay, you're going to do my work, but go out from before me because I can't stand falsehood before me. Amar Papa, Hainu de Amri Anshi, de para kine machrid bete. What does that mean?
This is the meaning of the popular adage. He who gives them to his desire for vengeance,
to vengeance?
To vengeance will destroy his own house.
Who is that? Keruach shel Navot, shenakam ka'aso mi'achav v'yatzim achseto. Oh my goodness, you know who that person was. This is the person who had that vineyard that Achav wanted, and he wanted to buy, you remember? Right. And he didn't want to sell it to him, so Izebel got him killed, and he said, now he's dead, so you can have his thing. So he wanted to get to him. So his spirit, which is up in heaven, this person, Nevat, Ben Nevat, said to God, okay, now here's my chance to take my vengeance against Achav. I'll go and entice him to go out to battle and he'll get killed. Right? So God says, okay, you go ahead, but go before me because I can't stand a spirit of falsehood. So he is taking vengeance against Achav. And that's a terrible thing, which is a very interesting. I mean, he is obviously the one who's the victim, right?
Yeah.
We're going to stop here for a moment. I'll show you already. Bottom of Kuf.
One moment.
We're going to give you wisdom.
Going a week. Take a moment, including a week.
Amen.